We are indeed privileged to have with us on Arise Africa the Honourable Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed. Many are applauding recent reforms from the recently passed 2020 finance bill, even as the country faces a challenging economic recovery path. Madame Zainab was one of the major contributors at the World Economic Forum in Davos and joins us live from the summit as it draws to a close. Good afternoon, Madame Zainab. Thank you very much for joining us today on Arise Africa. Now, let's first look at the World Economic Forum conference, which ends tomorrow. Looking at the agenda and sessions that you've attended, what have been some of your initial impressions?
Well, hi, good day. For me, what has been useful for me is to sit through sessions that is speaking to financial sustainability as well as financial inclusion. We also have met with several groups, including insurance companies, and also some countries that we feel we can have a good relationship with. I met with the finance minister from Qatar, and there was also a multilateral meeting set up with the Emirates. We have had some meetings that are bilateral, but also some meetings where I sat down as a panelist and we discussed issues around the growth of Africa. There's a new Africa Growth platform that Nigeria was invited to, and we discussed a lot of issues that are common to African countries, but also a lot of the opportunities that we have to address, especially financial inclusion using fintech and a lot of digital platforms to address public financial management and also provide more resources for the majority of our people.
And with regards to the Africa Growth Platform that you were invited to and some of those bilateral agreements that have the potential to take place, what are your hopes for Nigeria's future?
Well, one hope that I'm taking away from here is that we have an opportunity to interact with the government of Qatar. They have a very large sovereign wealth fund that is interested in investing in African countries, and they're looking at Nigeria as an option. So we will follow up through very quickly by putting together a team, including the Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Authority, the trade authorities, as well as us on the fiscal side, to sit with them and discuss both green and brown projects. They have indicated interest in some certain areas of the economy, so we will advance these discussions very, very quickly.
And looking at Nigeria now, you have been associated with the phrase, Nigeria does not have a debt problem, but indeed a revenue challenge. In your defense of the growth in debt, can you explain why we should not be saying instead that Nigeria has both a debt and revenue challenge?
Well, Nigeria has a revenue problem, not a debt problem. Our debt today is still just 19% of our GDP. The World Bank and the IMF recommends that an economy the size of Nigeria needs to have, could have a borrowing that is up to 50% of GDP, but we're only at 19%. Why I call it a revenue problem is because our revenues are underperforming, and therefore debt service obligation is a struggle for us. To address that, we're working to increase revenue, but we're also working to reduce our cost of borrowing by refinancing our older domestic loans that are quite expensive in terms of rates, and also expanding the tenor so that the debt payment obligation becomes easier.
Now, Madame Zainab, in the last 3 years, the trends seem to be that Nigeria has not met its revenue targets, barely crossing the 50% mark. What will be different in 2020? Are we putting all of our hopes on the new tax bill?
So all of the key ministries, departments and agencies are working towards increasing every revenue aspect that they handle. Yes, we do have some hope on the finance bill, to the extent that we have increased VAT, which is more largely in favor of states, by the way, rather than the federal government. But we also have Parliament have passed the production sharing amendment to the contract that will be seeing Nigeria realizing as much as 1.5 billion US dollars. Even though the finance bill has reduced taxes, in fact, zero taxes for the smallest enterprises and reduced taxes from 30% to 20% for businesses that have turnover of between 25 to 100 million people, we still believe that with these incentives, that more businesses will do better and will now be in the tax bracket that brings them to pay more taxes to the government.
Indeed, many are actually congratulating Nigeria on the tax reform and embracing the e-government. The newly approved finance bill is full of good intentions and we await implementation guidelines. But, Madam Zainab, what can you tell Nigerians to ensure well-executed implementation and that citizens are helped with orientation, automation and necessary support to pay these taxes as is best practice all over the world?
So the Federal Inland Revenue Service Board has just been inaugurated last week. They have hit the ground running. One of the things that has been done even before the board was inaugurated is a review of the electronic platforms that they have been using. The FIRS is fine-tuning its iTax as well as other tax platforms that they're using for the purpose of collection of tax. For example, they have a process now where VAT collection is automated when you are making payment for things like tickets as well as payment of hotel services and in large supermarkets. In the past, those payments that these outlets collect are remitted to the FIRS maybe like a month after. But now FIRS has a view of them because the process is automated and they are able to know exactly what those outlets have collected. So we're planning to expand a lot of this automation to include also payment of excise duties, also using electronic platforms.
And how can we as Nigerians do better to attract foreign direct investment inflows? Because the performance on FDI, quite frankly, in the last few years hasn't been that good.
On the contrary, FDI performance has been good in Nigeria. In the last couple of months, we've seen some attrition, so some investors whose investment have matured have gone out because there are better interest rates somewhere, not because there is a problem in Nigeria. And then in the past 3 weeks, we've also seen a turn that FDIs are actually coming back. But then again, this is not unique to Nigeria. In every emerging countries, you have FDIs coming in and then they go out when there is a better rate somewhere else. With all the effort government is doing, including showing positive results on the ease of doing business, providing a number of incentives, trying to now make tax payments easier for people and also automating tax collections, it's good for business because businesses now have a better predictability and they're able to plan well.
Madam Zainab, you mentioned the ease of doing business, and we are actually quite far down on the ease of doing business report that came out late 2019. How can we improve our rating?
The good story is that the movement is forward. The last measurement for Nigeria was 149. We moved up now 15 places to 131. There's a lot of efforts now to work with the states because the measurement cannot be just at the federal level alone. So far, we have 3 states that are doing well and moving forward. We are working to support the states so that the states can do more, and that will improve the performance on the ease of doing business rating.
Madam Zainab Ahmed, Nigeria's finance minister, thank you very much for joining us today on Arise Africa. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.